also heard that your birthmarks can be wounds from a past life. I've never had an injury to my neck that I know of, but I've always had a deep purple line in a weird spot that looks like a scar. Here's a picture of the side of my neck without sister.